Hello and welcome to Afterlife Topics. If you like this type of content, please consider subscribing to the channel or becoming a patron at patreon.com/Afterlife Topics. Hello everybody, welcome to Afterlife Topics and Metaphysics. This is Cyrus, and once again we are doing the Astral Stories segment, where I will review in no particular order the 10 most interesting astral projection experiences that I've had in my journals. So let's get going with my second story. So this experience happened in January of 2018, and here is what I recall. So the night began with a few of these, what we call in-between dreams, dreaming experiences kind of mixed with astral experiences, and this kept going until it began to transform itself into a full lucid astral type of experience. And the state of mind I was in was a bit troubled or upset. Now, I was having a dream, and I don't know if it was a dream or more than a dream, but I was part of some group or some community or forum on the internet, and I was unfairly kicked out of that community, right? So that was kind of the dream or the idea, the state of mind I was in. So I was a little bit upset, a little bit angry. Now, as things went along, I found myself becoming more and more lucid in some type of environment, and as, again, the experience became more and more clear, I soon found myself with that familiar, almost waking level of consciousness and vibratory feeling in my body that indicates that I have left my body. And I looked around to see that I was in a downtown section of a city. So this city was what I believe to be Astral Los Angeles. At the time, I was living in Los Angeles, and so it was common that I would have experiences on the astral spectrum of LA. So I looked around the city, and it was a busy place, and something you often see on the astral spectrum are things that look very out of place by our reckoning, whether it's extraterrestrials walking around, people with magical abilities, or non-human entities. So I saw one such non-human entity as I continued to explore the downtown section. What I saw was clearly what we could define as a devil woman. So it was a woman who was quite, I guess you could say, buxom, very attractive. However, you couldn't miss the fact that her feet were basically hooves, as you would expect on a horse or a cow. So this hooved woman was hanging around this busy area, and she was kind of trying to solicit people as they walked by. And someone who was nearby saw that I was curious about her, and this stranger offered me a warning to stay away from her because her whole gambit was to manipulate and seduce men. At this point, I realized I was projecting, and I wanted to have some kind of a memorable experience, and given that she was looking for a man to solicit, I realized, well, look, I am not, desperate to get with this hooved chick, no matter how attractive she might look from her legs up. And I decided, well, I can maybe talk to her, interview her, and see what I can learn from her. So I went up to her and gave the usual speech, said, hey, I'm astral projecting, I'd like to meet you. And she, of course, saw this as an opportunity to make me into one of her victims. So we began walking, and we walked away from the city center. And it did seem like maybe something related to time and space skipped ahead, because it didn't take very long before we were no longer in the downtown area, but we were on what seemed to be a trail out closer to nature. What I determined at this point was that this succubus type of woman was trying to manipulate my emotions in a way in regard to the state of mind that I was in, which is I was a bit upset and angry about something that happened. And she was saying, that's great because, together we can destroy your enemies. And so she was trying to kind of get me going, maybe get me, whipped up into like thoughts of revenge, thoughts of her being the thing that's going to be my savior. But I wasn't buying any of it because I knew what was happening. I knew that it was kind of a sad attempt at manipulating me. But I kept walking with her because I wanted to see where she was leading me, but I also wanted to make this into an experience that I could journal later. As we continued walking, what became clear is that she must have realized that I was not going to be one of her male prospects. In fact, I made it clear that I was astral projecting and I just wanted to learn about her, and this seemed to release some of her defenses during our socialization. Now, something interesting happened at this point as we passed some river areas of the trail, or I should say maybe a pond or some water. Whatever the case may be, she stopped what she was doing and then she picked up a frog. So there was a frog hopping around, she picked it up, and she did something to it, and before my eyes, this frog had transformed itself into kind of like a little winged fairy type creature. I actually have the dialogue in my notes, so let's take a quick look. According to my notes, she said, "Every creature has the potential to be a greater entity, even one so stupid as that frog. Maybe that frog would take many lifetimes, working its way up a ladder of consciousness until eventually it incarnates as an actual human being or some other creature of greater sophistication. What I did was reflect in itself that greater potential, part of its true essence that is buried deep and within and brought out to the surface. The problem is, however, it's still going to be extremely dumb and will eventually revert back to being just a frog, which I guess that means you can temporarily bring out the higher essence of a creature, and they can remember that if only momentarily, but when you set it back down again, it's going to revert back to where it used to be." She then expressed pity for this kind of fairy as it flew around bumping into things. It's such a poor, hapless, stupid creature for now, shortly before it returned to being a frog. I also got the sense that this devil woman had a strong interest in other people and their potential, including even these smaller life forms whom she felt responsible for taking care of. However, she didn't have much pity for the damage she caused, in particular to what she considered to be weak-willed men. Nonetheless, at this point, I don't think she considered me to be a weak-willed man, which is why she was letting me get to know her. After this demonstration, we continued up the trail until we got to a mansion on the outskirts of town. So this was a pretty nice Victorian style house. So we went inside, and as we went inside, one of her friends came up to me, and this friend was also, like her, some kind of succubus, same species. The difference is that this first girl I met, she had blonde hair, and this new one was a brunette. What happened next? Actually, we played pool. We played billiards in the living room of the mansion. And this continued for a while, basically hanging out with these two succubus ladies until I began to feel that familiar pull that I was being brought back down into my body. As this was happening, I looked between both of them and I said, "It was nice to meet both of you, but it looks like it's time for me to go, and I wish the two of you the best." As this happened, I woke up back in my bed. However, the story doesn't quite end at that point. In my bed, I didn't think much besides, "Oh, I'm awake now." Except a few moments later, a voice manifested into my bedroom, and I don't think this voice was simply in my ears. It was like it was a manifestation in my room. And it was a woman's voice. And what the woman's voice said was very clear. She said, "JC and Kitara." And what she was saying was that her name was JC, and her friend, the brunette girl, her name was Kitara. So I had not gotten their names during that whole experience. And so she had somehow manifested briefly into my world just to give me their names so that at least I remember who they are. I can attach a name to the face. And so this is one of the few times in my journals where I had some kind of a manifestation happen here in this world as a result of an experience outside of my body. What I learned from this experience is give people a chance, give entities a chance, never give your power away, never surrender your will, and always be in control of your emotions. Don't let other things manipulate that. But at the same time, part of being an astral journalist is learn about other people, learn what their stories are, and see what you can take back from that. So this is what I did with them, and it became a positive experience. Now, I think we also need boundaries in life. We don't want to bring in random, strange people into our lives all the time, but in these circumstances, we learned a different side to this woman who was generally regarded as like an evil entity that people should stay away from. And what I learned was that some of her motivation, besides the enslavement of weaker men, she was also motivated to the enlightenment of smaller organisms and helping entities reach their full potential. So it was this very interesting interplay between light and dark. And by me taking some time to get to know her, she was able to be given an opportunity to express what she was all about and ultimately have a YouTube video made about her. So I think it worked out for her, it worked out for me. And you never know the types of friends you might be able to make on that side. If you like this kind of video, be sure to subscribe or join me on Patreon, patreon.com/Afterlife Topics. You can do one-on-one coaching with me to learn about having your own astral projection experiences. Nonetheless, just subscribing to the channel is the easiest way to help keep this work going. So with that being said, I hope you learn a few things from this as well, and leave a comment down below about what you thought of JC and Kitara, if you ever had an experience like this with an entity like that. And what do you think about her ability to turn a frog into a fairy? Very interesting. Until next time, you are watching Afterlife Topics. I'll see you on the next astral projection story.